What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Frost BBM. Today we're going to talk about the advanced camera tracker add-on for Blender that you can get from the Superhive marketplace. And this is different from the default tracking option that you have inside of Blender, but it's, how can I say, it's refined to work a lot better, in my opinion. You can make point clouds with the densify option. You can create masks in the event you want to just track a moving object. And just right out the box, it works really well. So let's jump into it real quick and let me show you what I've learned so far. And hopefully it'll help you guys add some CGI assets to your live footage and get as creative as you would like. So let's check it out. All right, so here we are inside of Blender, and the way this add-on works is you have to install it like any other add-on. You go into Preferences, and then you'll install from disk, and then you'll come and install your camera tracker the way you would install any other add-on, except for this one, there are a couple extra steps that we need to take. So on the camera tracker, you're going to need to install both CC Plus distributables. So if we click on this, you'll see that we have both of these files. You'll just install them, however you have them installed. Next step will be installing this importer. They have a photogrammetry importer. They have a photogrammetry add-on that comes with this add-on. So it's an add-on with an add-on. So once you've installed that, you'll hit N on your keyboard to bring it up. And you can see down here, it's a photogrammetry importer. Still not sure how this works yet because mind you, I just caught wind of this add-on, but I had to share with you guys immediately. So we'll get into that later, but you must install this add-on and then restart Blender. Now, once you've restarted Blender, you'll be able to come over to your camera tracker here on the right hand side. And as you can see, we have sequence from video. We also have a select sequence directory in the event you already have an image sequence. And then we have more features down here. But what we're going to do is we're going to start off and create a sequence from video. And we're going to use this HDRI test and bring this in. So what that's going to do is it's going to turn that video into an image sequence. As you can see, it took that video and it turned into an image sequence. So we can just hit accept. And now we have a few options up here. You can do undistorted and then densify if you want to create a point cloud representation of your scene. It's extremely intense and resource heavy. You're going to get millions and millions of tracking points that are colored to pretty much recreate your scene. The times that I've tried it, it's crashed my PC, so I stay away from it. So I just do. I come down to detection. Make sure you click on refine. Zoom, if your camera lens is zooming in and out, then you're going to want to click zoom. And shake is really for like really extreme shake scenarios, not just like a basic walk or anything like that. So we're going to leave that unchecked. Max resolution and features I leave default. And then down here, your smart should not be on. So make sure you turn on smart. And if you're running with an NVIDIA graphic card, click CUDA. Now I'm going to delete everything from the scene and then camera track. And you can see here in this command prompt looking window, the software, is running its magic. It's tracking the camera right now. We give it a few minutes, and when it's done tracking, we can come back and pick up where we left off.
A few moments later.
All right, so here we are. We've got our scene, and look at this. Look at these point clouds. Everything right out the gate, the orientation is all screwed. But we're going to come back and fix that. But for right now, let's just hit 0 on our numpad and look at our scene through our camera and make sure that our camera movement translated over. And even inside of the point cloud, you can kind of, make out this. I can see the sidewalk, I can see some things. If we went denser with the densify option, pretty much the whole scene will be recreated out of points, like a Gaussian splat type of scenario. But this works fine. So what we want to do is bring in our original shot for background footage so we can really see how well it lines up. Also, one of the important things that we need to do over here in our output window is make sure that our resolution and our frame rate match. My original footage was 1920 by 1080, 23.97 frames per second. So I'm going to bring in my frame rate to 23.98 and match my resolution. Also, while I'm in here, I'm going to change my output because you don't want to forget to change your output and then you go to render your images and then you're like, I can't find my images. You know what I mean? So while we're in here, why not just make sure we set our output? I've already have an output here. Um, and I'll just go like that, accept that, as well as let's let's get our settings for our render and everything done now before we even go any further. First thing we want to do is change our render engine to cycles, GPU compute, and I like to go with experimental because you get a few more features and options that you won't get with the regular. And then down here under viewport sampling, make sure we turn on denoise and change it to optics, as well as the same for the render. Change it to optics. I also like to change my noise threshold to anywhere between zero point 0.5 and 1 for a quick render, but you at zero point zero 0.01 you'll get a better um, it'll be less noise in your image. But for tutorial purposes, I'm going to do 1 just because it's going to make it render a lot faster. And then I'll do my samples at 48, or you could do 64, 128, 256. It's all up to you. I typically don't go any higher than 64 samples because all we're rendering out is a few objects. It's not like an entire scene, so the noising typically isn't that high. If I'm using volumetrics like a fog, smoke, or lights, then I increase my samples, to about 1,000, just to make sure there's no noise in those type of shots. For something simple as this, I'll keep my samples low. Then I'll come down here to performance and I'll turn on persistent data and I'll turn off tiling. Um, and film, I'll turn my pixel size to 1. Um, and that's kind of really it to give us a quick render as well as a solid preview. Now, to get our scene right, remember our orientation is incorrect. And also, we want to make sure that our track was done well and the scene as well as the point clouds line up. So what we want to do is under your animated camera, you're going to come over here and click here. And background images, if it's not already checked, you want to check it and then click add image and then go to your movie clip and then open and then go where this video that you originally brought in the first time, and we're just going to load it up. And boom, we got action. Let's hit play and see. Yeah, you see it. These points are sticking. Look at the bushes. It's a lot easier to determine what's what now. The trash can, the street, the sidewalk. Remember I said I felt like I could see the sidewalk. So here it is. We have a good track. But let's hit 0. And as you can see, our orientation is all screwed. You know, we want everything to lay flat. We want the y-axis to be for our straight forward and back, our x to be left and right now our z is our forward and back. So what we need to do is we need to hit Shift A and add an empty plane axis. Then hit Control I to invert our selection. Then go back, hit Control and select our empty again, and then Control P, and then just select object. Now our empty, well, if we just rotate our empty on the X by 90, or let's do negative 90, sorry, we have it flipped, but it's going uphill. And if you look at your image, let's hit 0 on our numpad, that's going downhill. So what I want to do is I want to hit RX again, and I just want to, make it a bit more accurate. Um, Still going uphill. So what I like to do is, as you can see, like right in here where it's flush, I'm going to bring that level with my axis, with my Y, and then let everything else follow suit. So you'll see what I mean. So I'm going to hit R and X. Wait, matter of fact, let me change it to the side view so you can really get a better idea of how this is looking. Okay. For one, let's bring this up, GZ, and bring it up, and then RX. And I want, okay, I like the way that looks. So let's go back here to our side. And now let's bring this down so that the top of everything sits flush on the Y. And we can even bring this back. We can RX and then play with it. You were on set when this image was shot. So you have an idea of whether or not it was uphill, downhill, whatever. But here we go. This feels right. You know, it's going down off of the Y axis, but not too severely. And then next thing I want to do is I want to hit G, X, and just bring everything over so it's like closer towards the center. Um, VY, let's just bring this up forward a little bit. And then inside of our camera, you see this green line. We can hit R or Z because we're still on our X. And if you notice, just the green, just the grid itself is moving. And what I want to do is, do you see that line running down the middle of the street? I want this green line and that line to kind of be like symmetrical because that's the street. Or you can go for the angle of the sidewalk. You can kind of like line it up that way. It's whatever you choose is going to help you move your objects around in your scene better. So for me, it's going to be the line in the middle of the street. There we go. So I know forward. You see this line right here? It's very similar to this line. And then we can move things left and right. And now our scene is pretty much set up. And if I hit Shift A and bring in a plane and scale it up, and then hit the space bar, as you can see, golden. The track is golden. Beautiful. All right, so now we're ready to get to work. So I'm gonna just hit GX. And what we want to do is we want to model this plane to fit the street. Now, if we were going up on the sidewalks and so forth and so on, that would require a much more extensive modeling. But because we aren't, and I'm really just giving you guys the basics, we're just going to take this image plane, excuse me, and make it match the street. So when it serves as a shadow catcher, it'll have the entire street covered. And the way we do that is we can come up here from object mode to edit. And what you see here is if you hit one, these are vertices. So when it comes to modeling, let me show you. Let's come out of the camera. And as you can see, let's close our point cloud. And as you can see here, this plane has four corners, right? And each corner has a dot. This is called a vertice. And you can move vertices around to manipulate the shape. And that's how you do that. Or you can hit the number 2 and come here. And now we have sides. No, why is it? There we go. And now we have sides that allow you to manipulate the geometry as a whole side and not just a point or a corner. And then we have number 3, which are faces, which is the entire face itself. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to hit number 1 and use our vertices to allow us. Hit 0 on your numpad to see where you're going. And this will allow us, let's hit 2 actually, grab a side, hit G and X to just extend it over to here. Just pretty much, we want to just line things up so they match the street. And you won't be able to see it later once we make it a shadow catcher, and I'll explain that later. Make the bottom half connect, like line up like this portion. Don't worry about the overlapping because we're going to take this vertice and move it and make them fit. Okay, so we'll hit 1 and then we'll grab this vertice. Now watch G, X. Let me just bring it over a little bit. And as you can see, now we're getting hit G and then Y. And now I can move it all the way up to here if I choose. Now remember, this scene is downhill. So hit G and Z and then bring that vertice down slightly and then G and X and then kind of like line it back up with that street. Then do the same back here, G and X. And we just really want to get this right along that ledge because the shadow catcher is going to create like a dark area. And if it's not extended far enough, you'll be able to see where it starts and ends. And if you don't have it end on like a dark seam, you'll be able to notice it. A lot of people will just model the entire scene so that you don't see it at all. But like I say, for tutorial purposes, that's a bit intense. So G, Y, let's grab this other vertice and let's just continue to make this street. Click when you're done, then hit G again and X and bring it over. That should cut it. Now let's come back here, G and X, and let's just, we want this line to just really be flush against right here on that pavement. Okay, now we get over here. Oh, look like we still got some work to do. It's a refining process. Oh, let's bring this vertex down. Yeah, that should do it. Buster, baby, I'm a dog. I'm a mutt. Okay, I like the way that's looking. Let's go back to the first frame and make sure for this side, this curve is solid. And there we go. Beautiful track. Now that we're done modeling the street, let's just, you know what, just to be on the safe side, let's just bring this side out some, just so it don't get no clipping. And yeah, we're good to go. All right. Now what we want to do next is let's bring in an object, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend this over some. I'm going to grab this. You see how this, your cursor turns into like this little target? You click it and then drag over and make another window. Then hit this little icon in this upper left-hand corner right here. Drop that down and then open up my asset browser. And this is where all of my assets are. Majority of my assets are. So what I want to do is, you know what? Let's make it even simpler. Let's come over here to the mega fleet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bring a car in. You can bring in any object that you want. So I'm just going to bring in, where's my infinity? I'm bringing this infinity right here. Just click add vehicle. VY to move it back. GX to slide it over. RZ and just give it a little rotation. And like I said, you can put anything you want. You know what I mean? I'm just using a car real quick so you can guys just see how smooth of a track we get. Yeah, that looks beautiful. So let's go into render mode and see how it looks. Oh, that looks nice. But wait, why is everything so dark? Why doesn't this environment, the lighting of this environment, match our environment? And that's because we have not uploaded our HDRI yet. Now, one thing you can get HDRIs from like spots like Polyhaven, and a bunch of countless other um, websites and locations. There's actually a Polyhaven add-on that I have here in Blender that you can use to just bring in HDRIs. There's quite a few add-ons that allow you to have HDRIs, but when you're shooting, if you want to have accurate reflections, then you want to shoot an HDRI on set while you're there. And there are apps for it, but what I use is Insta360 or any 360 camera. I currently use the RS 1 inch, which allows me to capture HDRIs of my environment so that we can have proper reflections and lighting. So the way we do that, the way we bring in our HDRIs are as such. We need to come over here into our shader editor and we need to go from object to world. And this is our world. Right now, there's nothing creating light in our scene. So what you want to do is first, you need to ensure that Node Wrangler is activated. It's free and it's built into Blender. So just go into your preferences, type node, and then activate Node Wrangler. Now back in your shader editor, under this last node right here, all you're going to do is hit Control T. And now you have an entire setup. You got a texture coordinate, you've got a mapping node, and you have an environment texture. What we want to do is in our environment texture, we just want to open it and then go to where we installed, where we have our HDRI. For me, it is it this one or is it this one? It's this one. Yeah. And then you just open the image. And as you can see now, our HDRI is the same as our background image, but they don't match, right? If you look head on here, you see the house. But in our original shot, it's like you're looking down the street. So you'll come into your mapping node right here, and under Z, just rotate it until it lines up with how your original shot was, right? That's close. It's not absolutely perfect because where my camera was sitting compared to where my 360 camera sat, it's off by a tad. But look on the side of this car. You can see the reflections from the house, these houses over here, right? This is the beauty of the HDRI. So now you're probably wondering, well, all I see in the background is the HDRI, and how do I make that go away, or what is the next step? Well, all we're going to do now is go into our options and come down into our render options, and under film, click transparent. But you see how close in proximity the HDRI in the scene is. I could probably rotate this a little bit more. Yeah, I'll take it. So we'll turn that transparent as well as transparent glass so that you can see through the windows of the vehicle. Now look at the ground. You're probably saying, okay, well, why is that white? Or how we change that? We don't want that in the shot. And we don't, right? We want this to act as a shadow catcher. This is going to replace the street. And all we got to do here is go into our visibility and turn this into a shadow catcher. But look at the reflection on the side of the car. You still see that on the ground. We need to come down here and turn off diffuse and turn off glossy. And now all we have is the street and the sidewalk. You see that? If I turn this glossy back on, you see that on the ground. You don't see it here, but you see it there. the diffuse back on, turn it all off. You don't need it. Okay. So now we have the car sitting, we have the lighting matching, and we have our reflections accurate. Okay. And you see how this background image is so dark. If you want down here in background image, bring your opacity up to 1. So you get a more accurate idea of what your shot's going to look like. Control S, save as much as possible. Okay, let's save that. That's out the way. So now we have a really, really solid and basic track. If you want to do more, you want to add more parts, add more things, you're more than welcome. But I've given you guys the foundation on how to get a solid track and how to implement and add your HDRI so that you have lights matching and so forth and so on. Um, and that's really the gist of it. Like you can switch this car out. Let's just add something else. I don't know. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let's add it. You know what? Let me try one of these fountains. I want to see how these fountains look. I don't know. I don't even know why I put a fountain here. I just want to see how it looks. Don't forget we got to rotate it a little bit. Mm. Come in this view, you can get a better idea how it really tracks. All right, Control S, save again. Now, if you want to get idea what your shot looks like, boom. And now, only thing left in this portion of the workflow to do is to render it. Let's take this vehicle right here and RX. I just want to rotate it a little bit. And I just want these little white lines at the bottom to disappear some. Because when you really look at a car, right, on the street, the tires are never just like perfectly round. The weight of the vehicle makes the bottom of the tire depress a little bit. It looks a little flat on the bottom. So the way that you can fake that in 3D is just make the tire go down inside of your ground plane just a smidge so that the tire doesn't look perfectly round sitting on the ground. That's what we're aiming for here. There we go. So now we have a pretty good track. All we want to do now is render. Remember, we already got our settings set up. Everything is perfect. Everything is the way that we need it. All we have to do now is I say Control S and save it. If you hit Control and F12, your scene will start to render. And remember what I told you? I set it to 1 so it would render a lot faster. And you see it's moving. If you guys want to learn about the quicker way of rendering, which is called command line rendering, which will allow you to render and never have to worry about your scene crashing, never have to worry about your PC freezing, and still allow you to work on something else in Blender while your scene is rendering, be sure to go check out my command prompt rendering tutorial where I show you how you can render any scene from Blender in the background. And you can also render multiple scenes at once utilizing this method. It's very effective. So be sure to go check it out if you haven't watched it already. And right now, we're just going to let this render. It's about 150 frames. And then we're going to jump over into DaVinci Resolve. And I'm going to show you how to just layer them on top of each other, export, and be ready to post. Obviously, there are, other methods of compositing. Later, we'll get into nuke, we'll get into render passes and things of that nature. But I just wanted to get you guys the basics on how you could use this camera tracker and how powerful it is and how good of a track it generates and how you can add things to your scene. So these are just the basics. Make sure you come back for more advanced tutorials and methods and techniques. We're just getting started, baby. All right, we're going to let this render out and we'll come back in a few and then head into DaVinci Resolve. Let's go.
A few moments later.
All right, our render is done in Blender. All we're gonna do now is close everything out and then open up DaVinci Resolve. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna bring in our media. So let's go to our video and let's bring in our footage. And then we need to go to our export, which is here. And then we're gonna right click, add that into media, and let's go into our edit tab. If you're in Premiere or After Effects, it's pretty much the same thing. You're just going to layer. You're going to put your original footage on the bottom. Also, make sure you're go into your project settings and make sure your resolution and your frame rate are the same. And now just bring that layer that you rendered from Blender and just lay it right over top of your original footage, and everything should be perfect. And as you can see, we're good. Look at the water fountain. I actually like the water fountain. It's not bad. I mean, I don't know if I would use it in like close-ups or anything, but it's not bad. That track is super solid. And look at the shadows. And as you can see along the street, remember what I told you about extending that shadow catcher out? You can't see that dark line that you'd be able to see if that shadow catcher wasn't extended to that point. But not bad, right? Not bad for a first try. I mean, if you want to go in and make some adjustments to your layer, you can come in here and, make some adjustments to try to make it fit better or whatever you decide to do. You can make these changes right here. You want to add a little bit of blur because it may be just a little too crisp. I like to go up to about 53, 54, just to give it a bit of a blur, because when you look at objects, nothing is like crystal clear, right? We need to have a bit of a blur. Like if you come down here and we bring it this way, that's too crisp. That's too crisp. Excuse me. Even on the ground, there's a bit of blur. So I want these two to be similar. Excuse me. So I want these two to be similar with that blur. So I'll just take this up until I get a desired result, and I feel as though that looks good. Later when we get further into compositing and things like that, we'll be using nuke, and we'll work a lot harder on making all of this look seamless. But the HDRI really helps because it allows the lighting and reflections to match, which makes compositing a lot less difficult. And especially if you're not really a compositor and you just want to make some content, you want to do some cool things, these HDRIs are really like a cheat code and help prevent you from having to do a lot of compositing afterwards. Now it's just really little things to try to make sure it fits into the scene. One of the things you would do would be, if you really wanted to make this match properly, you would play with these shadows to match the shadows under these vehicles. You see how hard those edges are compared to how soft these are. We can go in and do some fine tuning and things like that. But for what we're learning right now, for the basics, if you guys have done up to this point and you got your objects to stick to your scene, man, you just did it. You got the foundation down. Do it a few more times, get the hang of it, and just practice. Practice makes perfect, you know, just over and over. Practice learning how to make HDRIs, or you can find some that closely resemble your shot and bring those in. But this is really it, man. All you're gonna do now is export this and you're ready to post. So I really hope that you guys have found this session, this learning session to be beneficial. And I really look forward to seeing what you guys can create and what you guys add to your scenes. Please tag me, at me, follow me on Instagram, Frost BBM, TikTok, Frost BBM, Facebook, Deacon Frost. And you guys already know me here on YouTube as I am Visuals 215. So if you create anything using information and knowledge that you got from me, I would love to see what you've done. Maybe you learned the new trick that I can learn as well. Let's build as a community and let's all learn and grow as one. As usual, it's your boy Frost BBM from I Am Visuals. Stay creative, man. Let's go.